us in the Pledge of Allegiance, okay?
Okay.
All righty, we're ready to begin. So we're all being recorded now.
Correct.
So welcome everybody to the July 27th meeting of the North Orange County Community College District. We have with us tonight, continuing on our practice of profiling a student, Irma Andazola. And Irma has already completed her ESL Academic Success and High School Diploma programs at NOCE. And she's currently enrolled in the NOCE Management Certificate Program and in parenting classes. Irma is the president and founder of the NOCE United Student Club. And this club empowers students, regardless of their citizenship status, to follow their academic goals. Irma's goal is to transfer to Fullerton College to pursue an AA degree in human services so that she can give back to her community and start her own business. In 2020, she started a community-based support group for single mothers like herself entitled Together We Grow. So a warm welcome to Irma. And Irma, I'm going to ask you to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance tonight. So Irma, go ahead and start.
I think we lost her. I don't see her logged on.
Oh, we lost her. Okay. Oh, okay. Maybe I can ask one of the student trustees to lead us in the pledge, and hopefully she'll log back on. Somehow we seem to lost her. So I'm just going to pick Mina. Can you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance tonight?
Yes.
Thank you.
Please raise your right hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So, Alba, if Irma comes back on, then we can ask her to give her comments. Otherwise, we're going to get started, okay?
Okay.
It's too bad. All right, so let's go to Board of Trustees roll call, please.
Trustee Bent.
Here.
Trustee Blount.
Here.
Trustee Brown.
Here.
Trustee Dunsheath.
Here.
Trustee Lopez.
Here.
Trustee Rodarte.
Here.
Trustee Rosales.
Here.
Student Trustee LaCourte.
Here.
And Student Trustee Pandian.
Here.
Thank you. And now we have comments from members of the audience.
We received 6 comments this evening, and I'll go ahead and read them all.
All right, and we ask everyone to keep their comments to 3 minutes, so I'll kind of monitor that. Thank you. Go ahead, Alba.
Okay. The first one is from the LEAP Parenting Department faculty. My name is Darlene Alquisa. This public comment is from all faculty of the LEAP Parenting Department. Collectively, we want the board to continue to use the words encourage and recommend regarding the COVID-19 vaccines rather than require or mandate, even once they are FDA approved. We support the original memo stating that the vaccine would only be mandated if legally required by state or federal laws. The most pertinent reasons to maintain the current wording is we are an institution that welcomes everyone the opportunity to attend. Being vaccinated or not does not determine if one is sick with COVID-19 or contagious with disease. Everyone who will be denied their education based on their vaccine status without actually being sick will be discriminated against based solely on vaccine status. Moreover, we teach in classrooms that are shared with other institutions such as the Boys and Girls Club. Some faculty work off-site with outside stakeholders such as K-12 institutions, churches, and community centers who do not and will not mandate the vaccine for their staff or students. Will they be held to the same standards to continue using our facilities, or for us to continue working with them? If not, it would be unfair for faculty to be held to a stricter standard for hypothetical safety reasons. Furthermore, we are not campuses with dorms and people living in close quarters. A better discussion would be about improving policies and practices regarding hygiene and sick days for faculty and students, hand washing and health check signs, procedures, and makeup opportunities for staying home if sick or contagious, etc. The shutdown has allowed us time to evaluate what has worked well, what we have failed to prioritize and give attention to regarding safer practices and procedures, and ways we can improve campus life. It is sufficient that the school encourages, recommends, and even supports and provides access to COVID-19 vaccines, as each individual has their own risks and benefits of being vaccinated with COVID-19 vaccines. Each individual must assess for themselves. The NOCCCD should not choose to deny faculty and students access to their education based on their decision to receive the vaccine. It would be more effective to allow everyone the opportunity to be welcome and create policies for those who are sick or contagious to stay home until they are well enough to be on campus. Those who are on campus would be expected to comply with good hygiene practices and refrain from coming to school if they feel sick or unwell. This would not only protect us from COVID-19, but all flus and illnesses as we move forward. Jody Balma. Fullerton College mourns one of its own taken far too soon. Earlier this month, Christian Von Fletcher died in his sleep unexpectedly, leaving behind his mother, family, and friends, but also a campus of faculty and staff who got to know him well. Christian was a veteran who served honorably in Kosovo and was recognized for his service. Upon returning to the U.S., Christian attended Fullerton College and was actively involved in and served as editor-in-chief for The Hornet, earning his AA degree in journalism, photojournalism. He was a campus leader and helped so many students while he was here. One of the articles that he wrote for The Hornet helped Sophia Alexander, our Associated Students President, share her transition story with the campus community. Christian was currently attending San Francisco State University, proud to be a Gator, and recently changed his major to international relations and global affairs. He remained active in photojournalism and local politics. Those of us lucky enough to have Christian in our classroom understand what an inquisitive mind he had. We mourn his loss and honor his memory. Always a Hornet. Cypress College Theater Arts Department. Dear Board of Trustees, we are writing you on behalf of Cypress College Theater Arts, as we have learned that you will be discussing the topic of required COVID-19 vaccinations for our district. We hereby implore you to take the advice from the acting community college chancellor and Board of Governors president and implement this much needed mandate, as the health of our students and colleagues will remain in jeopardy without it. The performing arts, similar to athletics, have been hit especially hard by the pandemic, and we cannot effectively train students for careers in our field while remaining physically distanced or masked. For the past 2.5 semesters, stage acting students have not worked on a stage. Behind the scenes, students have had no hands-on training, and none of them have had to run a production in front of a live audience. This is in complete disagreement with our teaching method, compromises student learning outcomes, and hinders students' ability to find gainful employment in our industry. One of our core principles as a department is the idea of being professionally modeled so that our students are adequately prepared for the real world. This not only extends to the quality of our productions and expectations of our students, but to the safety standards and procedures they would see in our industry. The current safety model for performing arts in places such as Los Angeles, Orange County, and New York's Broadway district is fully vaccinated performers, crews, and audiences. While we are prepared to provide show streaming options and select Zoom classes for those who cannot get the vaccine due to health reasons, we cannot remain held hostage by those who simply refuse. This virus and its spread are preventable, and we at last have the ability to safely stop it. Our obligation is to do so. We owe it to our students, coworkers, families, and audiences to ensure that everyone does their share providing a safe experience in the theater. Please implement a vaccine mandate so we can continue giving our students quality training in a safe environment and finally get back to normal. Ed Giardina. Dear Board of Trustees, my name is Ed Giardina. I'm a professor and the chair of the art department at Cypress College. In the interest of providing immediate public safety, I beg you all to follow the recommendations from the state of California and various federal health agencies and the precedent set by the CSU and UC campuses, and mandate without exception that all faculty, staff, students, and visitors be vaccinated before entering NOCCCD campuses. Tony Marr, the Cypress College Photography Department supports a COVID-19 vaccine requirement to ensure the safety and well-being of our students, staff, faculty, and community, and encourage the district to also support this requirement. Michael Clyde, good evening, Board of Trustees and board meeting attendees. I will keep this to the point, focused on NOCCCD students who cannot receive their full education through Zoom and self-paced online learning, including CTE, health science, fine arts, and kinesiology athletics. These 4 divisions now have spent a full academic year integrating in-person lab with online content presentation following COVID-required safe practices. The good news is that these students were able to have some lab time and some synchronous instruction through the Zoom platform. The results for my students this year was far from stellar. From the last academic year, my courses have 9 hours of lab time per the curriculum in the 2 distinct courses I teach. COVID restrictions reduced the lab time to 1 5-hour lab per week. The lecture time I did was live online during the designated 4 hours, just as I would have been on campus in a classroom. Though doing all that was possible last year, the online format and the reduced lab time was not sufficient as follows. Most students do not have the discipline to be attentive while at home when they would have been in a classroom. Some were driving, some were on the internet, some had younger siblings about, or they decided to go to work and try to listen in on the presentation. My course practical exam scores were much lower than pre-COVID student scores. Students had assignments for their self-study lab day, but most abdicated and instead went to work. Having some lab is better than no lab at all. However, as we approach the start of classes 18 months into the pandemic, we now have a vaccine that will help us get back to almost full lab time for the fall semester. Students who enroll in courses that have in-person required time must be vaccinated or must be tested following the California State Employee Guidelines outlined this week. It is time to mandate this, just like other vaccines and a TB test have been required for years. If students do not want to participate in being vaccinated or regular COVID testing, they can take online courses and wait this out. My students have stated they are ready for this so they can have very close to their full lab time as soon as possible. After 2 full semesters on Zoom and partial labs, the negative effects are too great to continue down the same path. Please make the decision that is being done by other public and private entities and implement a policy that gets us closer to the student outcomes we had before the pandemic. Require COVID vaccination or regular testing for those who are on campus to support the in-person education outcomes our students expect to achieve. That was the last comment.
All right, thank you. Irma is back with us, so we're sorry you dropped off. We did say the Pledge of Allegiance, but I want to give you some time to kind of talk about what democracy means to you, and maybe say a few words about your journey at NOCE. Wait, I can't hear you. It doesn't look like your mic is muted, but maybe talk closer to the mic or something. Can anybody else hear her?
No.
No, we can.
Try again, Irma. Can you just say your name?
Seems like her microphone is not enabled.
Do you know how to do that, Irma? Enable your microphone? Okay. You know what? Let's, if it's all right, Irma, it seems like there's some problems tonight. Let's invite you back another time because we'd really like to hear from you. And we certainly appreciate your time and everything. But we seem to be having some technical difficulties being able to hear you tonight. So we're going to try maybe next time again. All right. I'm very sorry that it's not working, but we appreciate all your efforts. And you have a very impressive resume, and we're happy that you're part of the NOCE student body and all your work that you're doing. So we're going to work on this and try to bring you back another night, okay? All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. You are welcome to stay and listen to us, or you can take off. But anyways, that's too bad, really too bad. Okay, let's go ahead to item 1D, which is consideration of non-personnel block vote items in sections 3 and 4. Is there any item that anyone would like to pull? And if not, could I
3H.
receive a motion?
Barbara, I would like to do 3H.
3H, okay.
And give me 1 second, please. I just need a little bit of clarification on, give me 1 second. 3D.
I'm sorry, what was the second item? Was it 3B as in boy or 3D?
D as in dog?
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, is anyone else like to pull anything? Could I entertain a motion then?
Move approval.
So
of
moved.
items.
I'll second.
Moved by trustee Brown, seconded by trustee Rodarte. Could we get a roll call vote, please?
Trustee Bent,
Aye.
trustee Blount,
Aye.
trustee Brown,
Aye.
trustee Dunshee,
Yes.
trustee Lopez,
Aye.
trustee Rodarte,
Yes.
trustee Rosales,
Aye.
student trustee LaCourte,
Yes.
student trustee Pandian.
Yes.
All right, we'll move to item 1E, which is consideration of personnel block vote items in section 5. Would anyone like to pull anything? If not, could I entertain a motion, please?
So moved.
It was moved by, I think, trustee Rodarte and seconded by, I think it was trustee Blount.
Correct.
Okay. Could we get a vote, please?
Trustee Bent,
Trustee Bent, are you in approval of items in?
I'm sorry. Five.
Yes.
I wanted to pull 5H. Sorry.
5H is not on block vote.
Thank you.
Can you hear me? Yes.
Okay, thanks. Now we heard you.
Trustee Blount,
Aye.
trustee Brown,
Yes.
trustee Dunshee,
Yes.
trustee Lopez,
Aye.
trustee Rodarte,
Yes.
trustee Rosales.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, so motion carries. So we'll move now to Chancellor's report. Dr.
Okay.
Marshall.
Thank you very much. Tonight, we're just going to share some conceptual ideas with you about signage on the Anaheim campus. It was my understanding that years ago when the building was purchased, that the idea was to have classes from all three colleges at the Anaheim campus, and that did not come to fruition. At this time, NOCE occupies about 70% of the Anaheim campus. And so we wanted to explore some ideas for some external and internal signage that would make it clear that NOCE occupies a vast majority of the building, with the exception being the boardroom and district services. So we're presenting these as ideas tonight. If there's interest in moving forward on this, then we can do some more work and do calculations of costs, not only for installation, but for maintenance as well. So tonight we're going to have the presentation by Martha Gutierrez, who's the Vice President of Student Services at NOC, and Rick Williams, District Director for Facilities. So with that, I believe Danielle is going to project the slides, and I will turn it over to Martha.
Thank you very much, Dr. Marshall. Good evening, and Rick Williams and I are very pleased to be able to present to the board tonight some preliminary drawings and plans for signage at the Anaheim campus by Westbrook White Architecture, which is intended to strengthen our campus identity and wayfinding for students, visitors, faculty, and staff. It is aligned with the NOC-CCD and NOCE facilities master plans to revitalize existing facilities and dramatically enhance our campuses. An analysis of the Anaheim campus identified the following challenges: lack of strong presence at the campus perimeter, lack of perimeter signage that denotes NOCE, and lack of signage and wayfinding clarity throughout the building and site. but this presents an exciting opportunity to promote NOCE brand recognition and improve wayfinding through a functional and visually cohesive sign system. It will also provide clarity and directions to NOCCCCD district services frequented by guests, consultants, and staff from Fullerton and Cypress colleges. The wayfinding and signage design guidelines being developed will provide flexibility for integration into existing facility conditions while advancing the NOCE campus vision. And so with that, Rick will kind of share some of these initial ideas, starting off with our brand colors and our district and NOCE logos.
Thank you, Martha. Are you able to hear me?
Mhm.
Okay. As Martha said, this is kind of an overall campus-wide standard that we're developing, and we're sharing a very preliminary phase, including with this slide, we are selecting fonts, types, and colors based upon the master plan and the graphic standards for both NOCE and combination of North Orange County Community College District. These colors will create a harmonious sort of a pattern of colors and identity throughout the campus. And next slide. As you can see, this is sort of a satellite view of all the main areas that we're looking into creating the signage improvements. Most notably along Romney Drive, we're looking into on a new identity monument sign to replace the one that is over 20 years old. It'll have the color schemes internally illuminated, and also some minor ones, external directional signage on the west and east driveways that will identify parking for students and create more of a entrance, not just the main drive, but two other options in the future for the campus. Next slide. This is a fancy architectural axonometric plan showing the different areas for the signage. And as you can tell, the first one in the middle, signage A, is an identity monument sign. This is the one that we're replacing the older sign. Instead of having two signs, we'll have a smaller sign on the east end, which is letter B. That'll be an external directional sign, and that'll be mirrored on the west side by another external directional sign. Inside the campus, we'll have smaller signs that'll give not only car direction, but pedestrian and wayfinding signs for students, staff, and visitors. Also on the tower, you can tell letter E is a tower identity sign that we're exploring different options, and we'll show you a couple options on the plan here. Next slide. The first one is the identity monument sign, which is the front marquee that right now is just externally illuminated with spotlights. We're going to have a change of sign that'll have internal lights that'll create a little more modern outlook. It'll have the sign colors of the campus and match all the lettering throughout all our wayfinding signs. In the background, and here's a glimpse of one of the optional tower identity signs for NOCE, which is a combination of paint and metal letters. Next slide. Here's an option 2 for the monument sign and the building identity sign, which we're exploring a large sign along Romney to create that branding image and identity for NOCE with large metal letters and painted accents. This one we considered a little more maintenance friendly, I would say, instead of the one that was about 90 feet in the air. This is something that we could probably maintain with the staff we have on site, and a little more cost effective to our budget that we're exploring. Next slide. And here's a detail of our identity monument sign. It'll be built out of durable materials, concrete base, aluminum frames, and the signage that it's permanent in the center. And there is some space if we do have culinary or other usage in the campus, we could add that at the top or bottom. But it's to be flexible, but give a image directly from Romney at the front of the campus. Next slide. And this is a sign type B, which is a secondary identity sign for the drive on the west side of the campus, I'm sorry. We don't currently have a sign for student parking on the west or east driveways, but these would be additional illuminated lighting signs that would give direction to the students where they could park additionally to just the center aisle. The next slide. Again, this is a detail of that sign. The heights are approximately 6-7 feet high we're looking at. Again, durable material with concrete base and metal fabricated panels that we're looking at low maintenance and something durable with a lot of pedestrians that will be walking by, and it'll last long term for our campus. The next slide. And here's a type C internal directional sign. Again, these are lighted internally. They'll be seen from a distance for both cars and students and pedestrians. It'll tell not only where you can park, but where you can drop off for parents and students that may be confused when they get on our campus. That's always been a problem for us. This is something that, again, we're using the same font, the same colors to create a theme. Next slide. And this is something we've talked about in the group. Our lots really don't have a section identity. Like if you say west lot, east lot, maybe that may confuse students or visitors. We're thinking of putting parking lot identification signs, sort of a monolith with a symbol, lot 2 or lot 1. So you can tell someone where to park in lot 2, 1, or where to go. And that way, if we have lots that are closed, it's identified by these marquee or these monument signs. The next slide. And this is a concept drawing of the NOCE identity for the lower entry, which is the main entry that we enter for the boardroom. It would give prominence to NOCE on that curve entry, and the Anaheim campus would also show up to identify that it's the Anaheim campus for North Orange Continuing Ed. So it's a additional letter style that we're adding to that curve, but it creates a main entrance gateway for NOCE. That is our last one. We are working on the options, develop the graphics further on the tower, but this is the furthest one we've got so far. And if we have any questions, we're open to any questions or suggestions. Thank you.
So I have a question, Rick, and I think it's answered by the picture behind you. So is the picture behind you what it looks like now?
Oh yes, this one's actually upstairs on the upper deck. We have two similar signs.
Mm-hmm.
What we will be doing is the Anaheim campus, so it's right behind me here. That'll be lowered down as the image is showing, and NOCE will be above.
Okay. And is that what it says? Is this the entrance from the kind of
The lower circle.
the lower level, or is this the upper level?
This is the lower level.
Okay. And is that signage the same on the upper level?
I think we're trying to keep just the main entrance for NOCE at the lower level to have one direction. And then we would have internal wayfinding signs we still need to develop to lead them into the counselors and attendants upstairs.
All right. And this is just exploratory. Do we have any idea of the costs or general ballparks or anything?
Westberg White is reaching out to 3 different sign manufacturers to get us a ballpark figure. And we're still working on that. We asked about a week and a half ago, and they're about a third through, but their numbers weren't solid enough to know yet if we're within our budget or not. Especially the high sign on the building, we're going to be concerned with that if it's exceeding our budget.
All right. And what is the source of revenue to pay for this?
We do have some Measure J funding available. It's one of the projects for Anaheim campus for wayfinding signs. I believe that's a little over $313,000. that we will be using for that.
Okay, thanks. I see that Trustee Brown has hand up.
I think this all makes a lot of sense. One thing that I think might be confusing for the public is that there's no indication that the district administrative offices are also here. So I'm thinking, at least on the, what was it called? The Identity Monument area, the main entrance, if we could put something like, administrative offices to go with the NOC CCD, it could be clearer for people who are looking for that and all they see is NOCE.
It is on the top, on that larger monument sign. I think it was the previous slide, Alba. There, it does say North Orange County Community College District and NOCE.
It doesn't say that the NOC CCD administrative officers are there.
Exactly. We could work on that as far as the lettering on that to add that.
Yeah, I was thinking something like that would be useful for the public who is looking for those officers and there's no indication that this is the right building for it. But other than that, I think this makes a lot of sense for promoting NOCE.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Trustee Rodarte?
Quick question. So I know we have some signage right there along Romney. Has there historically been an issue with like having to fix it, whether it be like tagging, etc.?
It's I think it's about 20 years old. A lot of the material is delaminating.
Okay.
We've had to do some painting repairs, occasional graffiti removal. On the lower part, people tend not to reach too high because it is a tall sign. So we're dealing with the lower 6 or 7 feet with markups, but we're trying to explore something that has the graffiti proof paint on it that can be easily cleaned off.
Yeah, I think that's really important. Just, this is an investment that's much needed for the Anaheim campus. So if we can get ideally material that makes it kind of easy for staff, should there be any cleaning that needs to be done, it's easier for them. And then one last thing, it's a question, but a little bit more of a concern regarding the large signage on the map. It's E that says NOCE. I know the city of Anaheim has an ordinance that kind of curtails large signage. And I know for sure in the resort area, but I don't know if it extends beyond that. So I think it's just really important to kind of check with city staff to make sure we're not in violation of any local ordinance.
I know Westbrook White looked into, they wanted to do an LCD moving sign out in the front, and there is it's prohibited to have a LED or LCD sign out on the street. So we couldn't do that. So I know there is restrictions in Anaheim throughout the city.
Yeah, okay. Those were my only questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else have any questions?
I do.
Go ahead.
Okay, I like everything I see here, and I even like both the building sign and the big wall sign. But between the two, I never got the impression that Romney was a super, super busy street. Whereas I think that the building sign could probably be seen from the freeway, which I think would be a nice advantage. Is that the case based on that angle? Would you be able to see that from the freeway?
My understanding, I'll start and then Rick can fill in, that you would see it best when you're going from west to east. It wouldn't be until you're kind of right up on it if you're heading east to west on the 91. Is that correct, Rick? You want to add to that?
Right. We did a kind of a user test ourselves going on the freeway, and you can see, based upon this chart, this diagram, you'd probably see the NO, maybe the C from the freeway, but not the E. There's too much visual distraction from the freeway for maybe about a couple seconds because of the angle of the building right there. It's hidden from the east to westbound traffic. So there's a little bit of I guess advertisement from the freeway, but it'd be very brief.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I would think that advertisement would be valuable, especially if you can see the whole thing. and which is, if that was something we wanted to pursue, like I would be fine with almost removing the district logo on top and moving the whole NOCE to the very top of that column. Just an idea, if that gets the whole thing seen, because that little logo, you can't really see that on the freeway or read it that well. But if it was a giant NOCE and we can get something out of that, like increased traffic to our website or anything, then it would be worth it to me. I would think to do that. And then the other comment I have, I appreciate all the wayfinding and all the signs that you're thinking about in the parking lots. I think that's really smart. And maybe in the parking, you may even want to go further and say parking lot, 1, section A or section B, section C. But I really like these ideas. And it also makes me realize when I see the two logos together that I don't want to insult anybody, but I'm not super, super attached to the district logo. I think the NOCE logo is very nice. It's incorporated into the name, but I'm sure we're not looking to change that anytime soon. So I just want to say I appreciate all the work that's gone through to this so far. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions?
Just a quick comment. I think it's very much needed. I agree with everything that's being said. Sometimes you go in there, you just don't know which direction to go or where to park or where the main entrance would be. And I think this will really help. I also agree with the idea of possibly considering moving that NOCE, just like Trustee Bent was sharing, to an area that could be a little more visual at a longer distance, such as a freeway. But yeah, good job.
Trustee Lopez?
Thank you. So regarding that tower sign, the NOCE, I guess just to throw in my 2 cents, it seems to me a little excessive. It looks like, a Las Vegas hotel sign or something. None of the other campuses, have signs like that. So I think I like the monument sign on the street, and I like all the things in the parking lot and everything. That looks good. But this one feature to me just seems like a little too much.
Thank you. Any other comments? All right. Dr. Marshall, do you have any other parts to your report?
No, nothing else for me tonight. I just want to confirm, it sounds like we'll continue to explore this and come back to you with some additional ideas and costs at some point in the future.
Yes, I think that was the general consensus. So thank you.
All right. Thank you so much.
All righty. Let's go around to reports from the chancellor staff and the different constituent groups. Fred Williams, do you have any report tonight?
No report this evening.
Okay. And I did hear that neither Irma Ramos nor Dr. Sherry Lee Bug have reports. So I'll move it to and welcome Karen Batista, who is sitting in for Valentina tonight. So Karen, welcome.
Thank you very much. I wanted to take this opportunity to thank the NOCE student who tried so hard to join us this evening for the Pledge of Allegiance, Irma Andazola. And she is president of our United Students Club, which is really one of the main outcomes of our Catalyst grant, which we have across all 3 campuses in the district. And so I thought I would take the opportunity to really congratulate our employees on the fantastic job that they've done over the last 3 years with the Catalyst grant. The Catalyst grant was a grant that was focused on supporting awareness and service for undocumented students on our campuses and in the community. It was a fantastic collaboration amongst the 3 institutions. We started with aligning our activities in October for Undocumented Students Week, and we also shared training opportunities for allies at all 3 institutions. During the pandemic, we shared across the campuses through the power of Zoom, and we were able to provide legal services to students and the community through the grant. Now the campuses are wrapping up the grant, and they are working together on the sustainability of these services for the benefit of all of our students. At NOCE, I especially want to thank Hilda Rivera. She is going to be leaving us for another opportunity with her career of teaching. And she created a bridge for our students from both NOCE to Fullerton College and NOCE to Cypress College. And I really thank her for that. I also want to thank others who collaborated, namely Cecilia Ariasa and Gilberto Valencia from Fullerton College and Anne-Marie Ruelas at Cypress College. It was really a pleasure for me being able to learn and grow with the team over the past 3 years. And so we're wrapping up the grant, but thankful to say we're not wrapping up the collaboration. Thank you. That will conclude my report for this evening.
Thank you very much. I see Dr. Joanna Schilling's hands up, so we'll move to you next. Welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Dunchief, and thank you, Karen, for acknowledging our colleagues across the district. Really appreciate it. I want to welcome our colleague Gil Contreras, new interim president of Fullerton College, to the resource table. So glad to have you here, Gil, and I look forward to working with you in your new role. I know that later tonight we'll be discussing some of our safe return to campus protocols and possible vaccination protocols. So I want to announce that Cypress College will be hosting 2 on-campus vaccination dates for the college, the district, and our community on August 10th and August 31st from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. each date. So thank you to NOCE Cypress campus for partnering with us to provide the best location to implement these vaccinations to our campus and community. We'll be partnering with Memorial Care and providing the Pfizer vaccine. So we hope you'll spread the word. We're also welcoming our classified employees and managers back to campus next week. And to celebrate being together again, we will be hosting a welcome back week from August 2nd to the 5th. On Monday, there will be a hosted breakfast from 8 to 9. Tuesday will feature a taco cart from 11:30 to 1. Wednesday, employees can enjoy ice cream sundaes from 3 to 4. And on Thursday, we're going to have our classified carnival, which is featuring team competition for our classified employees. So we're grateful for everything our employees have accomplished this past year and look forward to welcoming them back to our campus. In addition to my written report, which celebrates many charger accomplishments, it's always interesting when I write a board report in the summer because I think, gosh, what do we have to say? Well, we have plenty to say. There's been a lot of things going on. So I do want to highlight just a few things. So this Saturday, Assemblywoman Sharon Quirk Silva will honor Veterans Center Coordinator Dr. Juan Garcia, who has been selected as Veteran of the Year. Juan will be honored on July 31st at 10 a.m. in the Ellers Event Center in Buena Park. We all know what an impact Juan has made on our veterans and our campus and are thrilled he'll be recognized for this well-deserved honor. So congratulations to Juan. Also receiving recognition by Assemblywoman Quirk Silva's office is our student Catherine Cueva, who received the California Latino Legislative Caucus Foundation Award, which comes with a $5,000 scholarship. Catherine is one of the only community college students in the entire area who received this award, and she is also representing Cypress College on the Student Leadership Advisory Council at the Hope Center and is a workforce commissioner in the city of Stanton. Pretty amazing young woman. Catherine completed her AA this May at Cypress, and she'll be attending UCLA as a political science major this fall. And last but not least, alumna Amanda Fama made Cypress history this last week as the first softball alum to represent the Chargers at the Olympics when she took the field in Tokyo, representing, sorry, not the US team, but the Italian softball national team. Amanda spent 3 seasons with the Chargers from 2008 to 2010 before transferring to Concordia University in Irvine. We are incredibly proud to have one of our alumnus participate in the Olympics. So go Amanda and go Chargers. And that's my report.
Thank you very much. Dr. Gil Contreras, welcome.
Yes, thank you, honorable board members, Dr. Marshall and Fullerton College. Thank you for the honor to serve as interim president at Fullerton College. We will strive to build upon Dr. Schultz's legacy of leading with love. And I want to give some love and respect to our colleagues over at Cypress College. I spent about 7 years there and really got to build some strong relationships, and NOCE and district services. I'm a product of this district, and I'm so proud to work alongside gifted and talented educators. And I love Fullerton College. It is a true honor to work for an institution that aligns with who I am as a leader, the mission, vision, and core values. And what defines a Fullerton College experience are its people. And I look forward to working alongside the students, the faculty, the classified professionals, the managers, and the communities we serve to inspire change in this world. From my written report, I want to highlight that Fullerton College released a statement of support for undocumented students following a federal district court in Texas ruling that negatively impacted the DACA program. In this time of uncertainty, I wanted our undocumented students to know that Fullerton College will continue to provide unwavering support. The statement's available at the Fullerton College News Center. Additionally, I want to thank our campus for the tremendous job in educational partnerships, high school outreach, and the North Orange Promise at Fullerton College. Dr. Rolando Sanabria, Dr. Denise Fierro, and Dr. Jennifer Labounty, thank you for your leadership and for all the hard work. This is truly a campus collaboration to onboard students. Each year we welcome about 4,000 first-time freshmen into Hornet Nation, and this year our numbers for our START program are up, and that's very inspiring and exciting. And START stands for Summer Transition and Registration Time. The details for that involvement are included in my written report. And finally, I've been inspired by the safe activity that I've witnessed and observed at 321 East Chapman, walking around the campus. I've seen free meals, in our dining hall. I've seen the Healthy Hornet food distribution. I've seen student athletes. I've seen students in the Summer Choir and Band Institute. I've seen the world famous drone SUV and trailer. And I want to thank athletics. I want to thank Coach Campbell, Coach Crooks, Coach Austin, Coach Webster, Coach Avalos, our athletic director, Scott Giles. I want to thank instructor Nicola Dedman for leading an equity-focused Summer Choir and Band Institute. And I want to thank Jay Seidel for his innovation and enthusiasm for drone technology. And all of this while prioritizing health and safety standards while on campus. We're getting a glimpse of the vibrant student life that defines the Fullerton College experience. And in conclusion, I want to thank Instructor Balma for her public comment and recognizing a Hornet that we lost, and our condolences go out to the family and their loved ones. And this concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Kai Stearns.
Good evening, everyone. I also wanted to congratulate and welcome Dr. Contreras to the Fullerton College / district family, although of course you've been around for a while. I look forward to working with you. That's all.
Thank you. Dr. Ty Thomas Volchi.
Hello, everyone. I would like to start by welcoming Dr. Gil Contreras. Happy to have you in the president capacity. And then also just a brief report from DMA. I would like to thank Simone Brown Thunder and HR for their efforts to revise the reclassification process for managers. We did have meetings take place last week where managers had a chance to view the reclassification process, and the DMA board is looking forward to finding new ways to improve and to continue to expand upon the process to support managers in a transparent and fair way. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Jennifer O.
I don't believe she's with us this evening.
Okay. Dr. Damon De La Cruz.
No report at this time.
Thank you. Jeanette Rodriguez, filling in for Kim Orjan.
No report at this time, but just welcoming Dr. Contreras to Fullerton as our acting president. We're excited to work with you.
Thank you. Christy Deep from United Faculty.
Good evening. United Faculty is concerned that in lieu of hiring an interim vice chancellor of finance and facilities, Fred Williams will serve as both the interim chancellor and will also continue to serve as the vice chancellor. According to the following statement, in lieu of an interim vice chancellor, Fred will continue to oversee certain vice chancellor responsibilities with the support of several staff members. Staff members will receive stipends during this transition period. The concern is the conflict of interest that is being created. Clearly differentiated job responsibilities for chancellor and vice chancellor are being mixed together without the necessary boundaries. BP 3100 organizational structure, reference Ed Code section 72400, Title 5, section 53200 states, the chancellor shall establish organizational charts that delineate the lines of responsibility and fix the general duties of employees within the district. AP 3100 contains the board-approved organizational structure chart delineating that the Vice Chancellor of Finance and Facilities reports to the Chancellor and the Chancellor reports to the Board of Trustees. The Vice Chancellor of Finance and Facilities cannot report to themselves. No one in the district reports to themselves. When Fred served as interim chancellor the last time, the district hired 2 different interim vice chancellors of finance and facilities during the time necessary to conduct the chancellor search. United Faculty hopes that the Board of Trustees will take the same course of action this time in adherence with BP AP 3100. Thank you.
Thank you. Marwin Luminares is sitting in for Joseph Vasquez. Welcome.
Hi, everyone. CSCA is excited to go back to the table to negotiate with the district. And we wanted to welcome Dr. Contreras as interim president at Fullerton College. No other report. Thank you.
Thank you. Tonya Cobb.
Tanya has no report.
No report. Okay. Aaron LaCourte.
Hi, sorry, issues with unmuting. Wanted to welcome Dr. Gil Contreras. I know they usually say, oh, you got big shoes to fill, but you know what? He's a big man on campus and he's already got the big shoes. So it's all good. And we're happy to have him. So excited to work with him. Wanted to read a statement in support of mandating COVID-19 vaccines. And this is coming from Associated Students of Fullerton College. The Associated Students of Fullerton College are in support of mandating COVID-19 vaccines campus-wide for those taking in-person classes. Only the FDA fully approves any of the currently distributed vaccines approved for emergency use in the United States. There should be no reason for individuals, except for those with medical reasons, to be allowed to put other NOCCD students or employees at risk. Mandating vaccines campus-wide would be similar to actions already taken by the UC system. As explained in the recent article by Los Angeles Times, the University of California announced that COVID-19 vaccinations will be required before the fall term begins for all students, faculty, and others, becoming the nation's largest public university system to mandate the vaccines. The CSU system followed with the same decision after. In light of this information and how quickly the Delta variant is spreading, encompassing 83% of the new COVID-19 cases, there is no reason to allow unnecessary spreading of the virus to students, faculty, staff, and their families at home who may not be able to vaccinate due to their age or health conditions. COVID-19 is a deadly illness that can only be managed through diligent work in establishing rules in accordance with science. The longer this virus spreads through unvaccinated populations, the likelihood increases for new variants to eventually make vaccines less effective and perhaps even useless. In conclusion, Associated Students reaffirms the position taken in the spring. Any student who is able to receive the COVID-19 vaccine must do so if they wish to return to in-person classes for the upcoming fall and spring semesters. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Mina Pandian.
I have no report at this time, but I would like to welcome Dr. Contreras as the interim president.
Thank you. Ryan Bent.
I have no report. Thank you.
Jeffrey Brown.
I have no report, but welcome, Gil.
Trustee Rodarty. Jackie.
No report.
Ed Lopez.
No comment at this time, Madam President. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Stephen Blum.
Yes, since we last met as a board in a board meeting, I had a couple of conversations with a friend of mine, Isaac Hurtado, who was Orange County's running back of the year in Orange County, and I encouraged him to stay at home and play championship football at Fullerton College, but then found out that he got an appointment to the military academy at West Point. And I guess I couldn't argue with that, but he's no longer there. He's enrolled in Fullerton College, and I'm looking forward to see my friend Isaac tear up the field this coming fall, and plan to attend several games here in Orange County and elsewhere. That ends my report.
Thank you. Trustee Evangelina Rosales.
Good evening, everyone. I want to first start by welcoming Dr. Contreras as well. Welcome, and I am sure you're going to do an amazing job, as you have already been doing. So welcome to your new role. I wanted to share that the Fullerton Museum has opened. They had their first reopening event just this Saturday with great success, and the farmers market is back, and we're welcoming all to attend and visit the museum. I did see, and a quick shout out to our Fullerton College CTE program that was there promoting their programs. I was able to, talk to them and see how they were just promoting some of their courses. I also got the opportunity to work I was invited to participate and attend the Mexican Council, an event there in Santa Ana, in which we had many Spanish-speaking families that were interested in learning English or about classes. So I was able to gather some materials last minute and provide them with some resources. So that was a great event. So just wanted to share those two things, and that's it. Hello, everyone.
Thank you. And the only point I'd like to report on is that since last time we met, which was in June, I was able to have a tour of the new buildings at Cypress College. And all I can say is, wow, they are phenomenal. The Veterans Resource Center, what a great tribute to our veterans. I can't wait for them to come in. They will feel welcome and honored. And this STEM building is just phenomenal. It has everything from that beautiful domed area that I can't even remember, the digital classroom, to aquariums, to there'll be a greenhouse and everything like that. Just makes me want to take a science class or two. So I can't guarantee that, but anyways, really beautiful buildings for our students. And the only thing that's missing right now are the students in them. So let's work on that. So it just takes time. But what a great tribute to Fred Williams and his staff, and Alex Porter at the college, and Sundant and the M&O staff. All the big things that I noticed and the little things, everything from even putting a little on-ramping and off-ramping for the ducks in the ponds. Really nice job. And the community is going to just be wowed by it as well. So really good job. And if you haven't gotten the tour, take the tour. It's really worth it. So thank you. So with that said, we will move on to items in 2A, which is approval of minutes of the regular meeting. Are there any corrections on the minutes at this time? If not, could I entertain a motion, please?
So moved.
Moved by Trustee Rodarte.
Second.
Second by Trustee Rosales. Could we get a vote, please?
Are we doing them all at once? I just want to be sure.
Oh, yes, there is one question, and it has to do with the minutes for the special meeting. And that normally we excuse trustees that weren't able to attend for this special meeting. Can I just ask Alba for clarification? Is that necessary at this time or not?
No, it's not. We list them if they're not present, we just mark them as absent. It doesn't necessarily, there's no designation whether it was an excused or unexcused absence. But it doesn't affect them in any other fashion.
All right, great. So if we can then take them all together and take a vote.
Trustee Bent?
Aye.
Trustee Blount?
Aye.
Trustee Brown?
Aye.
Trustee Denchith?
Yes.
Trustee Lopez?
Aye.
Trustee Rodarte?
Yes.
Trustee Rosales?
Aye.
And Trustee LaCourt?
Yes.
And Student Trustee Pandian?
Yes.
Great, motion carries. Is there a need for closed session at this time?
No, there's no need at this time, and there's no readout tonight.
Okay, great. So we'll move to item 3D. This was pulled by Evangelina. So in order to discuss it, we usually ask for a motion and a second.
So moved.
Moved by Trustee Blount,
Second.
seconded by Trustee Bent. Evangelina, do you have some questions?
Yes, I have just a few questions. I see that there's many of the different construction, let's see, proposed construction projects for this 5-year plan. I'm curious to know if, and these, will these come back for voting for what construction company will be doing these projects?
Chair, I'll take that question. Yes, this is just identifying to the State Chancellor's Office what projects that we have in line for not only the current year, but the next few years as well. We do this every year. So this is just to alert the Chancellor's Office and show that we have approval from the board. We also update this information in the Fusion system up in Sacramento. So it's just alerting them kind of what's going on at the individual districts and campuses specifically.
So since we do it yearly, this is a 5-year plan. Is this something that's normal that we do a 5-year plan, or is this something new for?
No, we do it every year, and it goes in conjunction with when we submit the IPPs, the initial project proposals, and the final project proposals, the FPPs. This is one of the required components when we're submitting those. As part of that, the submittal, you'll notice that we have an FPP that's going up for Fullerton College. So we have a detailed application going up there for seeking funding from Sacramento.
Okay. Can you elaborate a little bit? I know there was just a very minor update on the revision, right?
Well, the update on the Fullerton College Vocational Center.
Yes.
Yeah, that was one this whole time, the submittal of the 5-year plan, we were having problems with the state Fusion system, which is software that the Chancellor's Office using. It was spitting out lots of different numbers. We made numerous corrections, and I think our final version is one we actually had to kind of hand type out there. So Rick, do you want to share anything about in terms of how the numbers got increased for the vocational center, the STEM vocational center?
Okay, thank you, Fred. We had on the first list, it was a carryover from the last year IPP, which when we submit the initial plan, it doesn't have some of the costs like the site utility development work, some of the demo and site removal. Also, the equipment costs weren't in that IPP. So when we printed the first list, there was about $3 or $4 million that was not demonstrated on that run out. We also got a bump up because of escalation this year. So on the new FPP, it's now corrected. It shows the new current California construction index costs. So it is the correct amount, and it costs a little bit more for the district, but we're also getting more money from the state because of the correction now.
Okay, I have no further questions. Thank you for clarifications.
All right, thank you. Are there any other questions on this item? If not, could we do a roll call vote, please?
Trustee Bent? I think that was a yes, right?
Yes.
Thank you. Trustee Blount?
Aye.
Trustee Brown,
Yes.
Trustee Dunshith,
Yes.
Trustee Lopez,
Aye.
Trustee Rodarte,
Trustee Rodarte?
Sorry, you all quickly like froze on me. Yes.
Trustee Rosales,
Aye.
Student Trustee LaCourte,
Yes.
and Student Trustee Pandian.
Yes.
All right, and now we move to item 3H. This was also pulled by Trustee Rosales. Can we get a motion in a second to be able to discuss it?
Move
So
approval.
moved.
Moved by Trustee Brown.
I'll second. Can I second it?
Yes, just seconded by Trustee Rosales. So then go ahead with your questions.
Okay, thank you so much. This is a great idea. I'm not opposing to it. I do have some questions though. Will these vaccine or the testings be done for away activities and in-house activities? Or is this, I just wanted to kind of get a better idea of, I know that we're getting athletes, managers, and staff and faculty tested, right?
Yes, thank you, Trustee Rosales. That's a very important question. And COVID testing has been an important part of providing our athletes with safe environments to compete and to attend class in person on campus. And our athletic director, Scott Giles, is on this call. He can provide you with more details about the item 3H.
Thank you. Before I answer that question, I just want to thank the North Orange County Community College District for supporting athletics at Fullerton College and Cypress College. We appreciate that. And we just want to show our appreciation to the board for allowing us to come back on campus. Our student athletes and coaches and staff, we came back on during the spring semester and we competed and practiced. And it was very beneficial. Our coaches needed to coach. Our student athletes needed to play. And it was awesome. And I look forward to the fall semester. So in order for us to compete in the fall semester of 2021, we will have to do some testing. So our protocols are going to be, if you are vaccinated, if a student athlete is vaccinated, if a coach is vaccinated, if a support personnel is vaccinated, they will not need to test. If you're unvaccinated, as a coach, support staff, or student athlete, you'll need to test. And you'll do that once a week, and it will be on our campus. And with that test, you're cleared to participate in athletic events during that week. And then the following week, we'll retest. Our hope is, and we are encouraging our student athletes and our staff to get vaccinated. That is going to be the key to a successful return to campus in the fall. If we can, and we'll encourage, we will not mandate, but we'll encourage vaccination. But if you're unvaccinated, we'll need to test, and we'll do a PCR test once a week for those unvaccinated individuals.
So is there a plan in place for those that if they test positive?
Oh, yes. And I am sure if we're testing, we're going to have some positive cases on our campus. And we've tested throughout the summer. We've had some positive cases. And once we are notified, we stop that group from practicing. So let's just say football. Football had a positive case. We shut them down until we come and do our contact tracing. And once our investigation is done, we'll determine how broad the exposure was. If it was just one or two individuals, those individuals will not come. If it's an entire offense or defense or the entire team, then they'll be off campus and then they'll come and retest. And once they have a negative test, they can return to campus.
If I could just add, Trustee Rosales, in the past 3 weeks, the California Community Colleges Athletic Association released new guidance on protocols and how we can move forward. We want to work collaboratively with our district partners, with Cypress College, with our faculty and staff and all the athletics personnel to see how we can best implement and move towards that guidance. There is a lot of people on all of our campuses and all of our institutions anticipating your conversation for item 6A. So a lot of what you discussed in 6A will help us define our protocols and how we can proceed with vaccinations and testing and providing consistency across the district. So hopefully we provide you the information for your question.
Thank you very much. Yes, thanks for the clarifications.
All right, are there any other questions on this item 3H? If not, can we get a roll call vote, please?
Trustee Bent,
Yes, yes, yes.
Trustee Blount,
Aye.
Trustee Brown,
Aye.
Trustee Dunshith,
Yes.
Trustee Lopez,
Aye.
Trustee Rodarte,
Yes.
Trustee Rosales,
Aye.
and Trustee LaCourte,
Yes.
and Student Trustee Pandian.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. We can move to item 5H. This is approval of the appointment and contract of the interim chancellor. So could I get a motion in a second so that we can discuss it?
I will motion.
The move by Trustee Rosales.
Second.
Second.
I didn't hear who seconded it.
Mr. Brown.
Trustee Brown, and then I think Trustee LaCourte, right? No, it wasn't. Okay, then Trustee Brown. We'll go with Trustee Brown.
Angelina moved and Trustee Brown.
All right. Is there any discussion? I mean, you've been welcomed by pretty much everybody. So any comments or questions? We certainly welcome you, Dr. Contreras. You do have big shoes to fill, but I'm sure you're up to the challenge.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. This item is related to the appointment of Fred Williams.
Oh, sorry.
We've already approved Gil.
Alrighty, you're right. So this is for Fred's big promotion, right? I'm sure everyone in the district has received the memo from myself and the rest of the board that we are extending the search for the chancellor. We are really hoping to find that stellar candidate. The candidates we had were very good, but we really want to make sure that the one is going to be absolutely perfect, and so we want to extend it a little bit longer. And Chancellor Marshall has still retiring at end of August, so we have an interim time to fill. And we have confidence that Fred Williams, who has served in this role in a previous capacity, can step in, and he is willing to do so. And so we have this on the agenda. Any questions or comments?
Just one.
Sure.
Yeah, for 5 months, I think this was worthy of being approved, but in the future, if it goes any longer than that, we have to rethink the payment amount and the dual role of Vice Chancellor and Chancellor. But I'll support this agenda item.
I do have a couple. I'm sorry, I wasn't sure if you were done. My apologies.
Go ahead. I think you're
Yes.
done, Trustee Blount. Yes.
Yes.
I do have a concern with Fred Williams serving two roles. It almost seems as if it is a conflict of interest in a sense. Don't have an issue with him serving as a chancellor. However, I do have big concerns about him serving two roles. I think Christy brought out a very good points in what she was sharing. I too had concerns. I don't know how that would work. I don't know if that would be even double dipping, having two different roles. Is that even the case? I don't know. But I don't feel comfortable with Fred serving in two roles. I would rather have someone else in his place while he's serving as chancellor.
Okay, I'm going to ask Dr. Marshall to comment on that. You're mute. There you go.
Yeah, sorry, I was trying to get to the button. This is for a short time frame and we discussed it. Fred and Irma and I discussed how we would backfill Fred so that he's not spread too thin. Several of his staff are going to pick up some of his responsibilities as vice chancellor. You know, the fact that construction is going on and the budget is being prepared, it will hopefully be done for the tentative or the proposed budget in September. That's the goal. So he needs to keep his hand on those activities because he will be back in this role hopefully in January. So that's what we discussed. We discussed a number of options for backfilling him, and this is where we landed. And as far as double dipping, he will only get one salary, and that'll be the chancellor's salary.
Okay.
I think Fred wanted to make a comment, if it's okay.
Yes.
Yeah, we thought about this very, very hard. You know, my first inclination was to backfill for the position and put in an interim vice chancellor. But since it was really only going to be 3.5 months, with December having, you know, essentially 2 weeks for vacation in that period, I wanted to be as least disruptive to the campuses that I could be. We have two big holes over in each campus with vice president positions, and more than likely, if I put in an interim vice chancellor of finance, it would probably come from one of the college's campuses. And so I was concerned about having two vice president positions open for 3.5 months. I felt because the budget is done, we'll have the science, engineering, and math building at Cypress completed, the veterans resource completed. We're almost done. We should almost be done with the new humanities building over at Fullerton College in that period of time. So a lot of the workload is going to be reduced in terms of the construction responsibilities. I thought we could keep it going with paying stipends to several of our staff, probably 4 staff is what I was thinking. Our director of fiscal services, our accounting manager, and probably a couple of accounting technicians, because there's a domino effect when you start moving people. And the concern was that are we creating more harm? On the flip side, we thought it'd be a good opportunity for people. So, you know, I shared some of the same concerns, but I think the discussion that Irma and Cheryl and I had, we came to the conclusion to be least impactful to the campuses that we would go this route.
All right, I see Trustee Lopez's hand.
Thank you, Madam President. So the recommendation is that Mr. Williams shall take a leave of absence from the Vice Chancellor position. So it's my understanding from this memo that he will not be acting as the Vice Chancellor. He will in fact take a leave of absence from that position in order to serve as interim Chancellor. Is that not correct?
That's correct. And I would have, in a number of situations, having our district director filling in for me in that capacity for various committee meetings, et cetera.
So we still don't have a plan in place as to who will be taking the roles and responsibilities. It seems like we don't have a concrete plan.
Yeah, we do have a concrete plan. There's several district directors who will backfill and get stipends for the additional work.
But they're not presented in our information yet, right? So.
No, we could send that to you if you like.
And then time frame of what the roles and responsibilities that each of them will be taking as a role, and the time frame as well.
It'd be for the time that Fred is serving as interim chancellor.
So that's 3.5 months, is that correct?
Yeah. So approximately September 1st through the end of December. And I think Irma wants to clarify as well.
Irma. You're muted. Oh.
Perfect, thank you. So today is just for Fred's approval of interim chancellor. And then next board, you will have on the agenda all the stipends related to this. the names, the amount, and the dates on the next board agenda. First things first, we needed to get Fred's approval. Fred approved, and then we'll work on the placing the other items on the next board agenda.
All right.
And then one last question. So you say you have potentially 4 people that will be stepping in his role. Is that right?
Not necessarily in my role. I think Cashew will be stepping in, taking the more major portion of it. But because she's stepping into my role, then our accounting manager will fill in for her, and then a couple of our accounting technicians will fill in for our accounting managers. Is the plan.
So one person will be serving for you, and there'll be other people that will be moved around to cover those roles. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Is there a reason why we don't have this? This wasn't laid out for us at this board meeting, since we already had an idea of what the plan was?
Oh, I'll respond. I did take a look at the agenda when it was first looked at, and because I went on vacation, this actually wasn't even on the agenda when I first looked at the agenda. Otherwise, I would have put forward the personnel change forms to do just that. So I thought this was actually going to go to the next board meeting in September, the August board meeting versus the September, or versus this board meeting.
And there's still time. It's not effective until September 1st. So we have 1 and potentially even 2 board meetings to make this happen. So.
Right, but it seems to me that we had this time to play out, and now I'm hearing that due to vacation, we couldn't bring this forward. So I was just curious if there was some kind of plan in place, and we have been discussing it. I'm just curious as to why we're still kind of in limbo as to who's doing what. I'm not sure if anybody else has any questions, but
I don't think sorry, let you finish. Are you okay? We're not in limbo, as Dr. Marshall and Fred said. There is a plan, and it will be placed on the next board agenda. And if you need more information, I'm sure Cheryl and Fred and I can give you more information with your weekly board updates that Dr. Marshall provides. So there is a plan. It's not in limbo. It's just not on this board agenda. It wasn't planned for this board agenda. It was planned for next.
So what we're looking at tonight is really just the appointment of Fred Williams as the interim chancellor. And then if that is passed, then the next step is to figure out who will be replacing Fred in his current duties as vice chancellor. So it does make sense that you have one that precedes the other, and that you wouldn't necessarily couple them together. So are there any other questions? Okay, so let's go ahead and have a vote, please, Alba.
Trustee Bent?
Yes.
Trustee Blount?
Aye.
Trustee Brown?
Aye.
Trustee Dunshith?
Yes.
Trustee Lopez?
Aye.
Trustee Rodarte?
Yes.
Trustee Rosales?
Aye.
Okay, so the motion carries, and then we'll see the other information in the August meeting.
Barbara, yes, exactly. Sorry, but the recommendation has to be read publicly because it deals with salary of an executive officer, please.
All right.
Sorry about that.
So I will read it under the recommendation. It is recommended that Frederick G. Williams, Vice Chancellor of Finance and Facilities, be appointed to the position of Interim Chancellor of the North Orange County Community College District, effective September 1, 2021. It is also recommended that the board approve an amendment to Mr. Williams' employment contract as of June 22nd, 2021, under which Mr. Williams shall A, take a leave of absence from his Vice Chancellor position to serve as Interim Chancellor effective September 1, 2021, and continuing through December 31st, 2021, and to be paid $25,587.25 per month during the time he serves as Interim Chancellor, and then return to the Vice Chancellor position and being paid in accordance with the contract once the leave of absence and service as Interim Chancellor has concluded. All other provisions of this contract shall remain in full force and effect. All righty. So thank you all and welcome, Fred, and thank you very much for your service to the district.
Welcome.
Very much. And so now we move to item 6A, and this is an information item. So we kind of just want to have a discussion. And, you know, I hope that everyone will have an opportunity to voice your questions and concerns. But I think at the end of the day, we're not taking a vote. We're just trying to get some consensus and general directions. And I'm going to ask that the trustees be given the ability to participate in the discussion first and foremost, and that we try to keep comments pertinent to the discussion, and that we kind of keep things moving. So if somebody's already said a comment, then just add additional comments rather than repeat what's already been said. So I open this up to the floor, to the discussion, and I'd like to invite the trustees' comments first.
I can go first if that's okay. So I read the report, and a question that I don't think it will get answered today was just, do we know what the other districts in our county are doing? And if I had to give a recommendation, I personally would have a preference that if students, staff, faculty, anyone who comes on campus, that they be vaccinated.
Thank you. Any other comments?
That's it for now.
Okay. So does anyone know the answer to the question about the other districts in Orange County?
Yeah, I know some, and maybe Irma and Fred can fill in a little bit more. South Orange County just started asking employees to voluntarily provide their vaccination, proof of vaccination to their manager. And if that's the case, then they do not have to wear a mask. I don't remember what Coast is doing. And Rancho is, they're encouraging, I think they're requiring all employees to be back on campus. I believe that they are requiring masks. So maybe Irma or others can clarify that.
I don't have an update at this point, Cheryl. I know we've been communicating with each other to inquire who's doing what, but we're still in that stage of asking each other who's doing what. And I know we're having more discussion tomorrow as well. Fred, do you have any updates from other?
Yeah, I saw the email chain going around, kind of asking the same question. And I think with the information that came from the chancellor's office in terms of the new acting chancellor has got a lot of people kind of reevaluating this whole issue. And so I know that it's on the chancellor staff agenda for tomorrow for further discussion after a discussion with the board this evening. So there's been kind of a change, I think, maybe kind of looking at this going around to our counterparts. So we'll have to gather that information, but it is something that's timely and being discussed at many other districts at this very point in time.
I can add that it's not Orange County, but LACCD is not requiring vaccinations. They are encouraging, but not requiring. They are requiring masks, but that's a requirement for LA County for inside. So I don't know if that helps or not, but I have that information. Okay, Trustee Lopez has his hand up.
Thank you, Madam President. So I too think that we should have mandatory vaccinations for everyone once a vaccine does have final FDA approval. I think in the meantime, we should have masks indoors for everyone. I think that's actually a state requirement now. And I also think we should have campus vaccinations just to make this as easy and accessible as possible.
Okay, wait, can I ask you to clarify, what do you mean by campus vaccinations?
vaccinations on all our campuses, available to staff and students.
Okay. The ones that we're currently doing?
Well, I think now we do them occasionally, but I think we should have them like every day once we're back to fall classes.
Okay. Trustee Brown?
Yeah.
You're muted.
Yeah. I think I tried to unmute at the same time somebody was unmuting. Anyway, this is obviously a difficult question. I was surprised actually by public comments that we got today. I wasn't expecting that. I very much appreciated the memo from the State Chancellor's General Counsel Office talking about the legal aspects. To a certain extent, it was we're damned if we do and damned if we don't. There's potential for legal objections, whether we institute a mandate or not. But that memo crystallized for me that our basic responsibility is to provide the safest possible situation for our students and the safest possible workplace for our employees. And I think the only way that we can do that is to have a vaccine mandate for faculty, staff, and students when they're on campus. I think anything less than that is abdicating our responsibility to do what we need to do for education and as an employer for our employees.
Okay, thank you. I know Dr. Schilling has her hand up, but I want to hear from the board members first, and then I'll get to you, okay? So we haven't heard from Trustee Bent.
Yeah, I just want to say that I agree with our chancellor's June memo and the guidance that was listed there, which included vaccinations will not be mandatory until and unless they are FDA approved. I think that would be the proper way to do it.
Okay. I do want to ask the two student trustees to, I know Trustee LaCourte already read the statement from the FC Associated Students. Are there any other comments you have? I do want to really hear the input from the students.
Okay, I'll go. I've actually spent my my summer with the Summer Urban Health Fellowship with Harbor UCLA, and we've actually done a lot of canvassing of communities that had low vaccine rates and the highest rates of folks who had COVID. The folks that are greatly affected by this, especially with the variant, is BIPOC. And we do have a high rate of folks who attend Fullerton College that are in groups that are marginalized. And there, you could tell that there's the disparities in some of the areas nearby. I've had that information, but I lost it earlier. Wanted to give that information out as to like there's certain areas within near the school that aren't vaccinated. And I know there's vaccine hesitancy. So I'm still working with doctors who are actually dealing with the variant right now, and it's going up high. And I think that we do need to have a mandate in order for us to return to campus safely, because that is like the most important thing for students, especially when there are students who already have had, had issues like with either losing a family member or folks who have had to, forego school in order for them to just be able to make a living wage. So I know that in keeping in mind that our enrollment rates have dropped, I'm hoping that with this mandate that it would allow some of our students to be able to come back and return and continue on with their education. So I think that it's very necessary for this to be part of the whole district in order for us to be able to move forward. The Delta variant it's fast. And I think that, you know, in my case, because I am going to be a future doctor, I would want to save lives more than dealing with having it politicized. So that's my statement.
All right, thank you. Trustee Pandian?
Hi, so I think this is a tough question, but because this vaccine is so politicized, I think that the best course of action would be to strongly encourage our students and employees to get the vaccine and require regular COVID testing for those who are unvaccinated. And looking at a survey that Cypress College completed back in April, it revealed that 19% of our students don't plan on getting the vaccine. And while that number might be slightly different now, we don't want to deter those students from enrolling in our district, while also prioritizing the health and safety of our employees and students. And on top of this, I think what's key is encouraging our students and employees to get the vaccine is making it as accessible as possible. And as Dr. Schilling mentioned previously, this is something Cypress is working on, but I do think that we should make it as accessible as possible by providing more vaccines.
Okay. And Trustee Blount, I think I'd like to hear from you at this point.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I think we need to echo what other people have said, make it the vaccine available. Well, that's the spur of the moment, spontaneously, they feel comfortable taking the vaccine, it should be available. And I think you're causing problems if you mandate it. Peer pressure, whatever else that strongly advises, nudges people toward a vaccine as preferable, because we see what happened when, you know, you violate your constitutional rights to not have a vaccination, according to some people, it causes backlash and trouble. And I have a question about FDA approval. I mean, at what point or how is it not approved? I mean, there's been literally millions upon millions of vaccines, and it's still in the trial phase of being approved, or?
It's an emergency approval.
Yeah, that's my understanding.
Oh, well, it's time to make it approved. I mean, they've had, again, millions and millions upon tens of millions of trial vaccinations. So based on all those millions, they should approve it, because it's been had a positive effect. I mean, like, really, I throw my hands like, come on, people.
Well, my understanding with that, there was an article in the LA Times, and obviously this is something we have no control over. It is not currently approved permanently. It's a temporary approval or emergency approval. I mean, that's up to the FDA. We have no control over that, and that probably won't happen, according to this article in the LA Times, until sometime around December. There's just a lot of different steps that has to happen. So, I mean, I've heard several people say that, you know, to approve it once it's permanently approved, but then we're really saying that we wouldn't require it as a mandatory vaccine at least until around December. So I mean, that's kind of a hair that we need to work on. So, you know, I did hear several people say that they approve or that they would recommend a mandatory vaccination, but are we talking about a mandatory vaccination without the approval or not? I don't know if Trustee Rosales has chimed in. So I'll go to her, and then I will go to Joanna Schillings, and then I'll go back to Jeff Brown.
Yes, I think we do have to require vaccine if we're going to come back face to face. We have alternative methods online. I think we should try to continue to offer those things. It's one of those things that's I'm a little hesitant just a tiny bit, just because there are those that cannot get the vaccine for whatever reason. But in order, with everything that's happening recently, I think we do have to make sure that we are careful and safe. And the only way to do that is to make sure that we are all vaccinated. So.
Okay. Joanna?
Thank you. Sorry to jump in front of you, Trustee Brown. I just wanted to, I certainly wanted to say that it would be extremely helpful for us, for the board to support vaccinations on our campuses. And to Trustee Rosales' point, I think that we are set up to be able to administer testing to those who can't have the vaccine, or perhaps chose not to have the vaccine. It would be a little bit more difficult for those employees and students, but we could manage that. And you just approved 2 contracts for both Cypress and Fullerton for testing our athletics. What you approved today is for our athletics. They have shown us the way, though. They've done an outstanding job in being able to test our athletes in a very efficient way. So this could be expanded to do that for employees and students who could not or didn't choose to be vaccinated. I did just want to clarify for Trustee Lopez, however, about administering vaccinations on our campus. We do not have the cold storage and do not have the supply to be able to do that ourselves on our campus. We are contracting. So for example, the upcoming vaccination dates is with Memorial Care. And I know that Fullerton partnered with St. Jude. So we would not have the capacity to do this on a daily basis. And the demand at this point has not been such, but we have to bring in an outside agency who has the vaccine to be able to administer and has the cold storage to do it. Johnson & Johnson was initially one that we thought we might be able to do on our campuses, because that's like a flu shot. It doesn't demand the cold storage, but at this point, I think we are looking at either Moderna or Pfizer if we went this route. So I just wanted to clarify just the logistics of how we might be able to do this on our campuses. Thank you.
All right. Trustee Brown?
Yeah, as far as the time frame for the full approval, what I've seen is that Pfizer, they're looking at perhaps September, and Moderna should be probably not long after that. The difference between the emergency use authorization and the full approval is just a matter of time. That the emergency use, they both go through exactly the same level of scrutiny. It's just how much usage information they have to have before they give the approval. For the emergency use, they were looking at 2 months of widespread distribution of it, which is the time frame that usually any serious side effects will show up, and that for the full approval, anywhere from 6 months to a couple of years. So it's just a matter of how long have the vaccines been available. But there have been 325 million doses given just in the US already. So I saw one quote from Dr. Day saying that anybody who's looking at the amount of information that's available for the COVID vaccines versus other vaccines that are available, there's really much, much more about COVID vaccines than about many of the other vaccines that people could be getting.
Okay. All right, Dr. Contreras?
Yes, thank you. You know, as a country, we're a divided nation on this topic, and as a campus, we're a divided campus on this topic. But I think one thing that rings true through our inclusive planning, through shared governance and looking at the safe return, our campus communities are looking to us for leadership, and they're looking to this board to provide us with clear and consistent guidance. And short of a mandatory vaccination, it's going to put a lot of pressure on the campuses to keep the peace. So one of the things I encourage the board to do is if we move in a direction of requiring mandatory vaccinations, that there are clear and consistent guidelines, or if we move to wearing face masks. You know, for some of our teammates, I'm aware of faculty members who have lost 5 members of their family. I personally have lost a cousin to COVID-19. There's members of our executive team who have lost close loved ones in their immediate family, and they are looking for us to prioritize their health and safety as we return to in-person services. So I'm not, suggesting the board move in one direction or another, but I'm suggesting that we as leaders recognize this special moment and our responsibility to provide clear guidance and expectations for the people we serve.
Oh, Barbara.
We lose our chair.
It looks like we lost Barbara.
You're up, Jeff.
Trustee Darte is our vice president.
Lucky me, I'm back up. Hopefully my computer doesn't freeze. All right, so thank you.
Just so everybody knows, she just texted and she was having trouble with her internet. She'll try to log back on.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Contreras. Any other comments from board members?
Well, Madam Vice President, so according to my count, I think 5 trustees favor mandatory vaccinations, and I don't think the board president expressed a view yet, but I counted 5 in favor of mandatory vaccinations. Once we have approval, not everybody said that, but I think that was understood. I said that, and so I think some others did. But once we have final approval from FDA, then I think that to me was kind of the bottom line, that there were basically 5 who favored that option. And then as Gil was saying, I think we should also be clear on the mask requirement. Until there is final approval, we should, I believe, have masks indoors for everyone. And I believe that's a current state requirement of the Public Health Department. And then again, I would also just stress also the vaccinations. And I appreciate Dr. Schilling's comments about the logistics of that, but I think other campuses are doing that, and I think it would be possible to do it on our campuses as well.
Yes, Trustee Lopez. I was also trying to take notes of, what exactly everyone was preferring, but I did notice that there was some distinction between some board members regarding mandatory vaccinations once it's FDA approved versus the immediate moment. So can I have clarification from Trustee Brown and Rosales regarding that?
Sure. I think before someone comes on campus, for the fall semester, that I would be in favor of the vaccination requirement at that point. The vaccine is going to be the same in August as it is several months later. It's just a matter of what the FDA has given as the approval. And just as a side note, I think when Trustee Lopez was saying that the state requirement for indoor masking, I believe he's thinking about healthcare facilities and K-12, but not for higher education.
Actually, it applies to colleges and universities as well.
I haven't seen that. I've only seen about the healthcare and the K-12s.
Yeah, if you look at the California Public Health Department website, they've got it. It's updated as of yesterday. You have to go to the FAQ page, and that answers the question that the requirement applies to. It's K through 12, other public facilities like cooling facilities, emergency shelters, and other things, businesses. But in the FAQ page, they make clear that it does apply to colleges and universities as well.
Okay, so just to confirm, Trustee Brown, you're saying if they are on campus during the fall semester, it's mandatory vaccine, correct?
Yes, the virus doesn't care what the FDA has said.
Okay. And then Trustee Rosales, can you just clarify?
Yes,
for
I
me?
feel, I agree. I feel the same way. I think that I probably wouldn't make much difference once it gets approved, and with everything that's going on, I agree that in fall semester should approve, mandate it.
So I also have that same sentiment of, if they are being on campus, that they should have the vaccine. Trustee Lopez, and are you comfortable with heading in that direction, or are you adamant about it being FDA approved?
No, I'm comfortable with that. I took the more moderate position because I thought that would be kind of more saleable, but I'm glad to see that that there's support for doing it right away.
And then Trustee Bent, just to clarify, you still want to continue with the Chancellor Marshall's June memo of not mandatory until it's FDA approved?
Yes, and I mean, I'm saying I wouldn't want to consider it until it's FDA approved.
Okay.
And also I want to, emphasize that I think that the vaccines are very, very low risk, and I encourage people to take them, but they're not no risk yet. And I think that's part of the problem. And so once it's FDA approved, that means that they've weighed the risk and benefits fully, and they're going to approve it or disapprove it at that time. And they may approve all 3 of those major vaccines, or they may approve 2 of them. Who knows? So I think that's appropriate to wait.
Okay. Thank you. Trustee Blount, I'm sorry, I didn't catch yours. Were you okay with mandatory vaccine for the fall semester?
Well, when you put it like that, well, in a way, in a left-handed way, that I put forth the idea of strongly suggesting, an ultimate sales job, cajoling people, under color of authority, maybe, but I still think making it mandatory would cause other problems. But the mask is, I think that's generally mandated in California indoors, because all civic municipal governments and that type of thing, they require it. And over against that was the idea that mandate it because with FDA approval, and why isn't the FDA, why haven't it approved it as yet? So you can take what you will from those comments, but I'm basically in favor of any way to get people vaccinated. And
Okay. So even though you would prefer that we wait until it's FDA approved, are you comfortable with it being mandatory?
Right, yes.
Okay.
But be prepared for objections, that there'll be
Yes.
pushback by people like, you can't demand me to do this. And it's kind of, you got to present your professional expert interpersonal relationship skills at that point.
Okay.
And part of that is having the vaccine available during the classroom hours on the campus every day, so that they get a moment of confidence and get the vaccine.
Yeah. I mean, I think we've heard from Cypress, at least, just the logistical components. It seems like it won't be feasible to do, kind of like clinic hours. But I'm sure if the majority of the board are leaning towards a mandatory vaccination, our campuses can be more intentional with having accessibility for those vaccines.
Yeah, that's a good word, intentional.
Yeah. Is Trustee Dunsheath on? Or do I continue?
He's on the phone.
I'm on the phone, but I can't
Okay.
seem to connect to the audio, or the visual. So go ahead, and you're doing fine, I guess.
We actually were waiting to hear your thoughts regarding this.
Okay. So, the devil's kind of in the details. I do tend to lean towards requiring the vaccinations, but you'd have to have ability for students, faculty, staff to opt out. I do have questions about how it would be enforced. I've looked at the UCs and the Cal States. The Cal States are requiring it once it is FDA approved permanently. So they have it all set up on their website that they would have to, students would have to prove their vaccination, and they're asking students, faculty, and staff to do that right now, but they aren't officially requiring it. They do require a host of other vaccinations even to attend, even if they don't live in the dorms. And I think somebody mentioned that. But I do have a question about who would be the one and how would it be enforced if we required it to be mandatory. I also wanted to note that there was a recent lawsuit and ruling on it in Indiana. One of the Indiana state universities required the mandatory vaccinations, and the court, it wasn't the Supreme Court, but it was a regional court that did uphold the right of the schools to require the vaccination. And I would certainly be concerned about losing any students. I heard from the LEAP program at NOCE that they were concerned that if they made it requirement that they might lose students, and a very deep concern about the multiple different sites that they work at. And I think we have to really think that through. With all that said, I'm still leaning towards the side of requiring it with certain caveats. And I would like to have more information about how we would require it. The same thing with the masks. My question has to do with what is the student code of conduct? And would, it's going to come down to the faculty in the classroom. What are they going to do if a student doesn't want to wear a mask? And what are the steps that they have and the support that they would have for that, if they choose to, enforce a mask mandate. And I think, I'm happy with a clear direction from the district, but I think we need to make sure it's clear to all the students and the faculty that would be the boots on the ground that would be doing this. What is the protocol? What would happen if they had a problem with it? And, we do need some consistency. So, again, I think it is important for the good of the majority. If an individual doesn't want to to be vaccinated or to wear a mask, if that only impacted them, that's one thing. But what we're seeing and everything I've read says that type of behavior affects other people as well. And it's the other people that I'm concerned about. And so those are my thoughts. So I have a lot of questions. And I would like to, before we voted on it permanently, I would like to have some answers. So to kind of summarize it, I have questions about the student code of conduct, how it would be enforced, the impact on how we would acquire information about vaccinations, who would be responsible and who would take the time to do that. And then how would we do the opting out? And the reason that I saw for opting out, and that was in the material that was provided, was for religious or medical reasons. So those are my questions. So thank you for asking.
Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you.
Chancellor Marshall, were you able to take note of just some of the general questions Trustee Dempsey had?
Yes, I took notes, and what I'm wondering is what would make sense to me anyway, or what I would recommend is that perhaps on August 10th, we bring some additional information, that we flesh out the protocols, answer as many of these questions as we can, and then you might be ready to take a vote on August 24th.
Okay.
Now that's slightly after the fall semester begins, but it is right towards the beginning of the fall.
Yeah.
I thought we weren't, are we having an August 10th meeting?
Yes. So are there any objections to that, or can we move in that direction?
I like that idea to get all those questions answered.
Okay, well, we'll answer as many as we can. Some don't have answers, and as you know, one of the challenges over the last 18 months has been that this tends to be a moving target, and new information comes out all the time. But we have tried to adjust and adapt as it does come out. We are having it's on our agenda for Chancellor staff tomorrow. So we will answer as many questions as we can, do some additional research, and bring that back on August 10th.
Perfect. Any other questions or concerns with the next steps?
Did we get a survey from Fullerton and NOCE just in regards to COVID? I saw the one from Cypress. I'm curious, did the other campuses conduct a survey as well?
That was included in the additional information. The
okay.
Included Cypress, Fullerton, and there was a link to the NOCE one.
Okay, thank you. I'll review that. Thank you.
And I just want to point out, for those that are not in the distribution list for the additional information, it is posted on the district website.
Thank you, Alba. Dr. Contreras, did you have an additional question or comment?
Yeah. Yes, I had an additional comment. I wanted to concur with Dr. Schilling regarding the availability of vaccinations on campus. We did provide in-person vaccinations through St. Jude on our campus. And if we want to move in the direction to providing them daily or more regularly or more frequently, there would be a cost associated with it. We need to improve our facilities for adequate storage of the vaccinations. And also we need to have intentional outreach. There are some concerns among some of our communities of color and fear about getting vaccinated. So it would require us to do intentional outreach and education, promotion, and awareness for our student communities to move in that direction. I also want to caution us from, cajoling or strongly encouraging taking a position like that. That is not clear guidance. That would provide the campus with a gray area and put our teammates in uncomfortable positions, having to navigate between what the policy is. So as much as we can provide clear guidance, I would suggest that once again. And I'm happy to inform and follow up with Dr. Marshall, the standards of student conduct and how they would be part of this conversation. If the board makes it a priority, that's something that can be handled through our APBP 5500, where disruptive behavior is one of the standards of conduct. We want to make sure that we fully vet that and get a legal opinion on how we can ensure that that is the appropriate place to handle those types of situations. Again, that would require more education and training for the entire campus community, including students knowing their rights when they go into a classroom and faculty knowing their rights in managing the classroom. So I'm happy to participate and work with Dr. Marshall in providing more information for the next meeting.
Thank you. Trustee LaCourt, did you have an additional question or comment?
I had a comment. When COVID first hit and in the fall of 2020, I actually was given the option of supposedly being able to go back on campus or possibly doing a class via Zoom. And come to find out that my professor, who's a STEM professor, decided that, you know, it would be best that we were on campus, which is fine. However, now some folks have brought up, you know, students' code of conduct about mask wearing, but I also want to bring up the code of conduct when it comes to professors who actually decided not to wear masks when it was mandated back in fall of 2020. Face shields don't count. We had cases of folks in the STEM community. Obviously, there's folks who are working in hospitals, such as myself, and you know, being in close contact with folks who potentially may have COVID. Now, with that being said, this professor, you know, did it so to where they decided that on their end that they did not want to wear a mask and only would wear a mask when people were close by. I'm going to tell you right now, that was the most stressful semester I've ever had, knowing that I'm a high risk person. I'm also one of the few folks in that particular class who does not have healthcare. So we're very much, you know, I would just put it out there that I think we need to be very mindful of students who are trying to get through school by any means necessary, because they know that education is the #1 goal for them to better their lives. But you have to understand that the social determinants of health, when it comes down to people of color, are the ones that are there's the biggest disparity in that section. And I think that, you know, not wanting to have a mask on or not wanting to have the vaccine. And I know there's folks out there who are hesitant because of trust in leadership, because of trust in what's going on and how things have been politicized. I mean, I almost want to just take a moment of silence for the 6 million plus folks who lost their lives because of how this was handled from the beginning. And again, you know, this pandemic is not over. Yes, we know that the science is there, and when we know that they're trying to work our way to finding a way to get this thing FDA approved, well, there's a lot of things that are coming into play, and that's between science and data. And then we're pushing towards something to where, if we're not mindful of the folks who don't have that ability to be able to say, hey, you know what? I'm afraid to take this vaccine because I don't know what it's going to do to me. Knowing that, because I've actually spoken to somebody, he's like, I really want to take this vaccine, but I just don't know what it's going to do to me. And I'm afraid that, you know, I'm not going to be able to get through school because I don't know what the side effects are going to be. I was that student. I was one of those students. And I just dealt with somebody like that yesterday in the clinic. And you just hope that, you know, you can make them change their mind and want to get the vaccine, because it's not just for them, it's literally for everybody. So that's the one thing that I would suggest, is that, you know, we're very lucky that we're in this position where we can make decisions on others. But I also think that we need to be very mindful as to how we make those decisions, because they do affect everybody, especially the most marginalized groups of people out there.
Thank you, Trustee LaCourt. I know Trustee Lopez, I believe he was the only one that kind of mentioned, in addition to the conversation regarding the vaccine, wearing masks indoors. Trustee Lopez, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're saying wear masks regardless of whether or not you're vaccinated, correct? I know you referenced California Department of Public Health.
Yes, my suggestion was until we have everyone vaccinated, that we do implement the state requirement that everyone wear masks indoors. Now, if we're going to have a mandate that people get vaccinated and implement that soon, then that's a requirement we wouldn't have to maintain for very long. But in the meantime, I do think we should have that requirement that for indoors, everyone has to wear a mask.
Can I have my other colleagues chime in regarding masks? So Trustee Brown, Trustee Bent, our student trustees, Trustee Rosales, and Trustee Dunshee.
So just to make clear, it is a state requirement at the current time.
Okay.
I'll just say I wouldn't argue with the state requirement, but if it is something that is up to us and that's no longer a requirement by the state, then I'd love to see the most recent studies on the success of masks and what they've done. And I will definitely mention that there's been multiple people that have had both vaccinations and unfortunately still contracted COVID. I believe that they're much more minor cases, which is kind of the design of the vaccine, so that's good, but I don't think that I think they can still spread it. So, but I would like to see more information about masks and the success of them. If it's something that comes down to something we can make a decision about, if it's a state mandate, then we obviously won't be voting on it at that time.
Yeah, if it's a state mandate, I definitely want to follow that. But if there is some changes by the time we have to vote on this matter, I think it's important that we decide what direction we'd like to go in regarding masks. Any questions or comments regarding that? Okay, I'm not seeing anybody's hand or unmuting themselves. So the last thing that the item is having us discuss is our actual face-to-face board meetings. We have to resume face-to-face meetings by the 30th. But in terms of logistics, are we comfortable with having members of the public attend these meetings, or do we want to have some kind of hybrid where maybe it's the board and the resource table present face-to-face and we live stream? So I'm open to hearing comments from the board regarding that.
I'll just say, I believe some of the local districts for K-12 are already back open fully for board meetings, and they have public comments. The public members are there as well. I'm completely fine with that.
Okay.
I would like to see us do a hybrid and just be prepared and slowly transition fully on face-to-face. Just because we don't know if we needed to go back to Zoom meetings, at least we have something in place already.
Yeah, Madam Vice President, I guess if we're going to have a mandatory vaccination requirement for our campuses, then I guess it would make sense to have a hybrid approach for our board meetings, unless we want to, have somebody checking, proof of vaccination before people come in. But I think it's easier just to have a hybrid approach, for a while.
Trustee Brown, Trustee Dunshee, Trustee Blount.
Yeah, I could be wrong on this, but I think it's, right now with the waiver for the Brown Act, that's the reason that we've been able to have meetings that don't have the public, in attendance. But I think once that waiver is gone, that the Brown Act requires that the public have a way to provide comments at the point of the meeting. So I don't think that we could go and say, it can only be the board and the resource table in that room and the public, would be excluded. I could be wrong, but I think that's the way that the Basic Brown Act deals with public meetings.
The way that the Brown Act deals with them prior to the pandemic is that if you're teleconferencing in, which would be any of the trustees during a hybrid model, you would need to post the meeting agenda from the location that you're participating in and allow any members of the public into that same area, regardless of whether it's a private residence or not. That information would need to be posted and shared. Yes, we would need to have public comments available in person if we're doing a hybrid approach. I think it's left up to the discretion of the agency if they want to also accept electronic comments like we have in the past that have been read into the record.
Thank you, Alba, for the clarification. So knowing that, Trustee Brown, would you prefer it to be pre-pandemic?
I'm not in favor of coming back in person as long as we have the waiver to not do that. But I don't think that, if I understood what Alba was saying, that she was agreeing with me that once we're in person, any place where the meeting is, which would include, the boardroom, has to allow the public access to it to make comments. I don't think that only applies to remote locations that board members would, if they're participating remotely. I think that would also apply to the main location of the meeting.
Maybe I'm not understanding it, but do we not have the option to still stream it and, members of the public send electronically a comment?
I think there's two different components to it. So yes, the board can decide to follow a hybrid model once the Brown Act exemption expires on September 30th, and we could allow the public to view a live board meeting online via our YouTube channel. It's up to the board to decide if they still want to accept public comments electronically, because the Brown Act doesn't do that in its normal capacity. The distinction about posting where the meeting is taking place applies only to board members. So if you, 7, choose to not come into the Anaheim campus boardroom to participate in a board meeting in that fashion, because the exemption has expired, you need to allow the public to know where you're participating from and let them participate from that location if they want to. So kind of two different things.
Okay, thank you. Trustee, who am I missing? Trustee Blount, Trustee Denchi.
Trustee Blount, do you want to go?
Well, I don't know. I'm tired of Zoom. The sooner we can meet in person, the better. Work it out with, Brown Act and COVID protocol and expediency and whatnot. But so I think it can be done, maybe not by September 30th, but whenever. I'm glad we're tackling it tonight as well.
But your preference is in person.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Denchi?
So yes, my preference is to come back in person as well, but my concern in the hybrid is how much is that like double doing the work for the staff, and staff is really Alba and Danielle. I mean, is that feasible to do the hybrid model, or is that going to just make it double the work?
Can I add one thing? We would need to modify the boardroom because not everyone would be on Zoom. So we'd need to do some changes within the boardroom and purchase some equipment. So if you want some sort of hybrid model or live streaming, then we would need to get started on that right away. And I know this has been discussed in the past. I mean, I think we've had the last 18 months to see what it's like having it on YouTube. But if that's a direction that you want to go, then I need to know that fairly quickly so that we can get started on the changes that would need to be made.
I think we should buy equipment for streaming.
I was just going to point out that if we do the live streaming version, it wouldn't be in this same format where you're all in the same meeting participating individually from your screen. It would be one, much like a city council meeting, where the camera captures all of the room at once.
Okay, so I'm the only one that hasn't chimed in, and I'm preferring that we meet in person. I think I'm experiencing Zoom fatigue, but also just it's sometimes challenging with like our conversations. We don't know when some folks are still wanting to ask a question or we interrupt each other. So my preference is it's in person. And I'm just, before I kind of start counting what folks have for preference, our student trustees, would you like to chime in?
I don't feel comfortable coming in person.
I do prefer in person. While I can't speak to the effectiveness of it because I've never experienced that. I do prefer in person, but if we do in person, I would like it to be hybrid as it gives the public more access to us.
So there's a slight majority for a hybrid, correct? Alba, can you help me with that?
Reviewing them right now. Hang on one second. I have 3 in favor of a hybrid approach: Trustee Bent, Trustee Rosales, Trustee Lopez. Trustee Brown indicated that he'd like to remain not in person for as long as it was possible, but I didn't exactly capture what his thoughts were on the hybrid approach. And the remaining, you and Trustee Blount would like to do in person. And Dr. Dunshee would like to do it in person, but has concerns with the hybrid model.
So, Madam Vice President, can I just ask a question for clarification? When you first brought up, I think it was you who first brought up the idea of a hybrid approach, and I agreed with it. But my understanding was that by hybrid, we were talking about the board meeting in person, but continuing to take public comments by email. Because, you know, what I said was if we were going to have mandatory vaccinations for the classrooms, then our board meetings should operate according to the same principle, and there should be mandatory vaccinations for attending the board meetings. But if we didn't want to check, you know, that everybody, proof of vaccination at the door for people, members of the public coming in, then a hybrid model might make sense. But by hybrid, I was talking about all the members of the board being there in person, but continuing to take public comments by email. Now, I understand Trustee Brown was raising some concerns about or questions about, you know, whether that comports with the legal requirements, and I don't know the answer to that, so that's something we would have to look into. But just to clarify, that's what I meant by hybrid. I support in-person meetings of board members, but the only question is, what do we do about the members of the public?
Yeah, Trustee Lopez, when I said hybrid, I was insinuating, or at least in my mind I was, that board members would be present, but the public would have the opportunity to give comments via email. But I think since then, some board members might have different interpretations of hybrid.
I just want to clarify, if you'd like to continue receiving comments from the public via email, that's at the discretion of the board. That the law doesn't weigh in on that. They're only talking about the bare minimum, and this is an addition to, so that would be up to you. My understanding of the Brown Act is that you would not be able to preclude members of the public from coming in person if you're having in-person meetings. You would not be able to limit the public comments to electronic comments if you're gathering in person.
Okay, so whoever shows up can obviously make their comments there. But I guess when I suggested or mentioned hybrid, I wanted to give folks the option, in lieu of being there in person, they can still send a comment electronically.
And that's something that the board can direct staff to do.
Okay. But for the time being, I think we can discuss that part at a later meeting. Alba, can you tell us, like, to what extent is this creating a workload for you and Danielle?
It has its pluses and its minuses. Certainly it's a lot more feasible to share information because we're exclusively doing electronic communication. And obviously when we're stumbling on top of each other is difficult because it's Danielle and I monitoring it. And despite how quick we are to mute, the technology doesn't always sync up easily. So there's lags in muting and unmuting people. I think the logistics of how we do it right now are fine. It's not a hardship. It's something that's easy to do. I think that would not be the case if we were to do in person in this format. But if we moved to a format where, like I said, like the city council, where it is one camera, individuals they're not identified individually on camera. You're speaking as you would in a normal meeting. I think it's something we can do. We might have to bring in some more folks. My concerns with that are more related to the aspects that Dr. Marshall highlighted regarding the technology components. Because if we have trustees, let's say, for example, there are trustees that don't want to come in and would want to do the board meeting from an alternate location because that's their preference. That's allowable by the Brown Act, so we would have to do that. But if we have a glitch in technology, there's a chance that we could lose quorum. There's just so many more other variables, but some of those, like I said, are related to each of the two circumstances. One with trustees participating remotely versus with broadcasting the meeting for the public. I do have one slight concern with the public comments. Sometimes we get, obviously, as you've noticed, when we have certain matters before the board, there's a lot more participation than normal. And so there is an influx of public comments that is far more difficult to manage with a 30-minute window before the start time of the meeting, and some of them coming in right at the wire, let alone the reading aspect of it. So I'm not sure if that's something that can be addressed with time limits. I've seen other districts not actually read all of the public comments into the record, but provide them to the board and to the dais and post them on their website so that they're all available so that everybody can see what was received. And I know there's been talk about a restructuring kind of the order. So all of those things I think could help facilitate a meeting where we accommodate the public. I am confident that Danielle and I could do it. I'd be even more confident with more support.
Thank you. Chancellor Marshall, quick question. Will there be a period of time where we actually won't have our board meetings in our boardroom because of the upper deck construction that will be taking place?
Yeah, that's correct. From January of 23 through December of 23, approximately 1 year, the current boardroom will not be available, and you would have to find an alternative location and make arrangements for, if you decide to do some sort of live streaming, then we'd have to make sure that that's an option at an alternative location. But that's a year away, but it would be happening for about a year starting in January 23.
23, okay.
Jackie?
Yes.
Yeah, I just want to clarify, when we're talking about the hybrid, I think, Ed was, I think, clarifying what the understanding was about allowing people to, comment electronically. If people are thinking by hybrid, they're talking about, are we going to start live streaming in-person board meetings? What we've been doing in Zoom has no relevance to that, and all of the discussion that we had before and the reasons for not doing it would still apply. Not just the fact there would have to be some technology added to the room, and it would require more staff time, but also the changes that other boards have found it can make in their meetings, that some people would use that time to make public statements to the public, not to the board. It'd be like putting somebody on public TV, and that doesn't promote the board doing its business. And conversely, some people from the public who might want to make comments to us would not want to be on camera, and so it could discourage them from coming. So all of those reasons that we talked about before and ultimately rejected the idea of doing live streaming of the regular board meetings would still apply.
Okay. So I'll go for it, Trustee Lopez.
Thank you. If I could just chime in on that point, because I think it was Trustee Bennett who raised this issue a few years back that we should have some kind of live streaming, and at that time I went along with the majority that we should not. But now that we've been doing it, it does seem to me actually a good idea, and it does improve public accessibility and so forth. So I've come around to Trustee Ben's point of view on that now.
Okay. So from the notes I've been taking, it seems like we have a slight majority that prefer in person, and Trustee Lopez, you would like for it to be live streamed. Trustee Dempsey, Trustee Bent, and Trustee Rosales, do you wish for it to be live streamed?
I think it should be live streamed, and I would be open to the idea of continuing the electronic public comments for this year. If our goal is to keep the public informed and have access, but not to crowd up our boardroom, then allowing the electronic public comments is a good way to keep people able to give their voice, but not necessarily have to be there in person. And that might be a good compromise to have.
I also like, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Trustee Rosales.
Thank you. I also agree with live streaming. I think that it's provided a lot more accessibility, and we have a lot of other boards that are doing that as well. So I would like to see that we are doing some sort of either live streaming hybrid and definitely having electronic comments. Thank you.
Trustee Blau?
Yeah, back when Ryan first brought it up, probably in his first year on the board, I went to my nephew that does that for city councils and counties and other government boards, water boards, whatnot. And the quote I got from the owner of his company was $150,000 to set up and $100,000 a year to monitor and make sure everything worked well, and et cetera, et cetera. So that's what live streaming was in 2019, 2017.
And what is your preference for receiving electronic public comments?
I'm for it. But like I told the city manager on a couple of occasions of the Cypress city manager, so that's the price of transparency. And, you know, it's like it costs, but it's vital and people expect it and want it.
Trustee Dungy?
So I'm happy to continue with the electronic comments. I think maybe we need to adjust the time so that if we are doing in-person meetings, and it does fall to Alba and to Danielle, that maybe I think the cutoff time, I think right now it's 5 o'clock, is a little too close if they're also trying to set up the boardroom and everything. So I think we need to either get them help or to change the time. But that's kind of still accepting public comments, but we need to work out, make sure that they're not overly burdened. And I think with the live streaming, again, I'd like to see cost estimate. And I mean, we don't know, right now we're doing it on YouTube, but we don't have any idea how many people are watching on YouTube. Hi, everyone out there on YouTube. But, you know, I don't know, is that, I don't know if there's a way you can track that. It'd be nice to see what the numbers have been, and see if there's a wish to continue it or not. So you know, I just want a little more information about the feasibility and the costs and the strain on staff to do all this.
We can get figures, I think, related to the YouTube viewership from Public Affairs, who is responsible for that channel. And in a perfect segue, Kai Stearns would like to speak. So, and I think she's having trouble raising her hand, so we're going to unmute her.
Okay, go for it, Kai.
Yeah, I just want to say there's 44 people watching right now.
So I would also like to get some more information on the different options for doing different recordings for the board meetings. From my understanding, doing a video recording that we're showing to the public is much different than doing the Zoom recording that we're doing right now. So I don't know if somebody from IT could let us know what the pluses and minuses are, as well as the costs. But that would be helpful for this discussion, I think, moving forward.
Okay. So just, you know, because I'm trying to like keep count of what everyone's suggesting, there is a majority of the board that has an interest in having it live streamed. So Kai, you can
right,
help
so
along.
The term live stream is different than video recording, which some other people do. So I think we need to get into the details of what people are actually looking for.
Yeah.
I would be open to live streaming or videoing it and posting it. So I think if there's a significant difference in cost or logistics or whatever, I'd be open to that idea. I do know, like, my local city obviously live streams, and some people, depending on how that meeting goes, to get in their car and drive to speak at the meeting. But you know, I don't know if we need that here. I'm okay having the recorded as long as it's being shared and made public. But I'm open to both ideas. If it's something that the recording is so much easier, far and above, and everything than live streaming, then I'd be open to it.
Trustee Rodarte, not weighing in on those, I'd just like to point out that Dr. Contreras has been waiting very patiently to speak and has been brutally rebuffed.
I'm so sorry. I did not see that. Dr. Contreras.
Yes, thank you, Trustee Rodarte. And I just want to share, like, I will enthusiastically participate in the meeting in whatever format the board chooses, but I do support an in-person meeting. And one of the things that I mentioned earlier was the importance of clear and consistent protocol. You know, beginning August 2nd, we are asking our classified professionals to return to in-person, regardless of vaccination status, regardless of mask wearing, as well as our managers. So I think it's an opportunity for us as campus leaders to lead with love and to lead by example. So that, for those reasons, you know, I support an in-person board meeting.
Dr.
Dr.
Lee.
Lee, yeah, sorry. I'm starting to see that. I did not scroll around, so my apologies.
Thank you. Kai was talking about technology folks providing some further information. Yeah, there's a big difference between live streaming and recording of the board meeting to be posted later on a website. But the boardroom is currently not set up to do either. So there will be a cost and it will be a project in order to set up the boardroom to do either live streaming or recording.
Thank you. Trustee LaCourte.
I would like to know, you know, how big the space is, if there's going to be social distancing, if the HVAC system is good. I mean, I understand Zoom fatigue because I've been back to back to back meetings, sometimes 2 meetings in one sitting. And I'm at the point where the cost of something versus the cost of life would mean more to me than anything. I would rather be, you know, alive than have to worry about being in a space where folks may or may not be wearing masks. And I know that, you know, we haven't talked about the Delta variant much, but I want to remind you again that that is going fast and furious right now. And we're talking about something that's coming up in September and the numbers are still climbing. So I don't know if that's even being taken into consideration based on the conversation that we've had.
Okay, thank you, Trustee LaCourte. Are there any other comments? So there definitely is a preference of being back in person and requesting additional information so the board can vote regarding what type of recordings we will have for our meeting. And then it seems like there's an interest regarding accepting electronic comments, but maybe curtailing either the amount of time dedicated towards public comments or maybe sticking with our board policy and based off of the topic at hand, allocating 20 minutes. Did I capture that accurately from my colleagues?
You got it, Jackie.
Okay, thank you. I think that concludes this agenda item. It's a great conversation, so I appreciate it. And then we will receive additional information regarding item 6A at our next board meeting, which is August 10th. And I will hand back the baton to Trustee Demchik to take over the meeting.
Thank you, and thank you for navigating through that discussion. I know it took a fair amount of time, but I think it's an important discussion, and I was glad that everyone had a chance to participate. So thank you for your leadership in that. We'll move now to item 6B, which is also an information item. And I will ask Trustee Lopez and Trustee Brown to discuss this one, to lead the discussion.
Okay, I'll jump in. Thank you, Madam President. So the committee was formed, of course, to provide some advice to Trustee Bent regarding an apology. As stated in the report, our basic advice was that, or suggestion, was that any apology should address the specific comments that were highlighted in the ad hoc committee report, because those were the kind of issues that were identified as problematic. In other words, the use of the word thuggish and comments about student trustee Reyes's performance as a trustee. We found Trustee Bent to be receptive to that suggestion. He has produced an apology that, in the view of the committee, does satisfy the board recommendation and does address the issues that we suggested to him. And that, I think, summarizes it from my perspective, but I will ask Trustee Brown to add whatever he might like.
I think Trustee Lopez summarized it very well.
All right. Are there any other comments or questions to the ad hoc committee?
Well, I would like to read my statement. I don't know if you want to do it now or after people ask questions.
You can do it now.
Okay. So I'm going to read my statement. Dear Fullerton College associated students and former trustee Reyes, thank you for your response to my previous apology letter. I would like to add some further comments. First, I would like to apologize to our former student trustee, Chloe Reyes. At the AS meeting I attended, I felt that I was under attack and that my work as a trustee was being unfairly criticized. When my performance was mentioned by student trustee Reyes, I responded by questioning Ms. Reyes's performance, and it was wrong of me to do so. I recognize that I have the responsibility, as do all members of this district community, to be civil and respectful to students, trustees, and others. During my time as a board member, I believe I have generally lived up to that obligation. However, I regret that on that occasion I fell short. Although I did not go into detail beyond expressing the idea that nobody is above criticism, I am sorry for the offense given and for any hurt I caused student trustee Reyes. I respect Ms. Reyes's accomplishments and wish her the best in her future endeavors. As I mentioned, I felt that I was a target of unfair treatment, and I also questioned why my microphone and video were being turned off while I was speaking. I would, however, also like to apologize to the students present at the meeting for characterizing the tactics used to silence me as a thuggish move. That is a word that to me does not have any racial undertones or intent, and is a word that I've used to describe bullying tactics used by people of any and all races. But I understand some students were offended by the word. As it was explained, the word is often used towards people of color. I will note again, as I previously stated publicly, that it was the actions and not the person I was describing. However, having researched the matter, I now appreciate that my use of that word caused offense, for which I apologize. Finally, I am sorry for contributing to a heated discussion, as that was certainly not my intent. I attended the meeting to explain and defend my earlier comments from a previous board meeting. I regret that this AS meeting became an unpleasant experience for the students, and I later learned there were many who were new to that AS board. While attending the meeting, I could not understand the desire of the students to attack a Fullerton College alumnus and trustee who they had previously never met, but I do apologize for my part in the situation, and I look forward to working together better in the future. Sincerely, Ryan Bent. And in addition to that, I just want to thank Secretary Lopez and Trustee Brown for being on this committee and for assisting me in this matter.
Thank you very much for your apology. Any other comments?
I just want to say the fact that Ryan read his letter out loud to all on the call speaks volumes. I really appreciate him reading it. It connotes a serious tone and a heartfelt, to lack better phrase, at the apology that he meant, that he was serious about it and meant what the apology. So I appreciate him reading it out loud for all to hear.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Comment?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Bent, thank you so much for typing this letter and sending it to Fullerton College's AS and former Trustee Reyes. I appreciate the thoughtfulness that was put towards this letter and reflecting on your actions on that day. I know in the committee that was investigating this incident, we also did recommend some professional development. I don't know if you want to update just, what professional development you've attended. I know you mentioned it at the previous board meeting. You don't have to answer it, but I just encourage that not just you, but we all continue to reflect, in our role as trustees and how our actions do have an impact to everyone in this district.
Trustee Bent, did you want to respond to that or not?
I can submit it. I submitted it, I believe, before last time, but I can submit the training I did. I believe the recommendation of this committee was that training was a suggestion, but it wasn't something that was required. I'm happy. I already did the training, but I'm happy to do it. I'm happy to submit what I did.
Okay. Anybody else have any comments? So I would like to say,
I have my hand raised. I wasn't quite
I'm
sure.
sorry, I didn't see it. Go ahead.
Okay. I just wanted to say that we did not actually receive this letter. We first heard about it based off of the agenda that was placed before us last Friday. So our board, I'm not quite sure who the letter was sent to, but we did not receive it. Just wanted to let you know that. But we're at an impasse here. I mean, at this point, people who have gone through this whole situation are still dealing with it in their own way. And at this point in time, I've discussed this with the folks that were at that meeting and have, basically, we want to move forward on this. Does not mean that, when harm is caused, it's happened. But I also feel that, punishment is passive because it doesn't require taking responsibility or transformation. So transformation is really accountability, which is actively happening on a daily basis. And I think that, as people, we do make mistakes. And I think the only actions that we can take is obviously to find ways to really be mindful of the words that we choose when we speak to others, be mindful of our actions that we decide to take. And I think once we all engage in the process of accountability for ourselves, for our community, for our team, and, in anything that we do as folks or just regular people, part of being part of the community, part of being a family, part of, when you're actually saying, hey, I'm really sorry that this happened. I want to do better. I want to make things better. I want to, make right by you. That comes from a place of love. And that doesn't come from a place of where you say, hey, I didn't do this or I didn't do that. But I think in this particular situation, my cohorts and I we just want to move forward into the new year and put this behind us. But this does not necessarily mean that we've forgotten what has happened. But we do want to work together with the board. We want to make sure that at the end of the day, whether we agree on certain things or we don't, ultimately, students are our main focus here. And that's, I think, the most important part is that we as a collective focus on that, is that students do come first. And that we do, be mindful of how we talk to each other and how we treat each other going forward.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Again, I want to iterate that I really appreciate the apology letter. I'm sure it did take some reflection, and that is difficult. And that I appreciate Trustee LaCourte's point that we want to move forward, and that when you grant, an apology, you have to think about it, and then an apology also requires a certain amount of forgiveness, and forgiveness is the hope that you move forward. And I have great hope that we can move forward from this point, and I appreciate everyone's effort to work towards that, particularly Trustee Bent, and then I certainly want to appreciate the subcommittee that worked on with him. So this is not an action item, and we have discussed it at length at numerous meetings. So hopefully this is ability to kind of turn the page and to move forward with great hope for the future. So with that said, I'd like to turn the page on the agenda and move on to item 6C, which is, are there any further discussion items for the future? Any items that anybody would like to see in the future? I'm not seeing any. So I think we are at the point where we can adjourn the meeting. I would like to adjourn it in the memory of the Fullerton student, Christian Van Fletcher, that passed away all too early. I appreciate the comments from Professor Jody Balma in his memory. And it's always hard to lose one of the Hornets. So I appreciate that. We will, what time is it? I'd like to re-adjourn in about 15 minutes. Oh, and my phone just said that Katie Ledecky won gold in the 1500 meters. So that's a good update. So we will come back at 8:45. And the closed session items is listed in the agenda, but I will read it out. It has to do with a conference with labor negotiations, and it has to do with public employee dismissal release, public employee appointment, which is the chancellor, and a conference with legal counsel in anticipated litigation. And there's one potential case. So with that all said, I wish you good night, good evening, and take care. Thank you so much. I'll see everybody. I'll see some of you back